evening, brothers. I'm coming to you live from UNC Wilmington. My name is Brother Sean H. Palmer. I've been a brother of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated for 23 years. I started my journey at Nu Mu Lambda chapter in Decatur, Georgia, and I am currently the corresponding secretary and the political action chair of the Gamma Kappa Lambda chapter in Wilmington, North Carolina. I am excited to introduce to some, but also present to many, a brother who does not necessarily need a lot of introduction, but who has been doing the good work of Alpha for quite some time. And so I stand as I bear witness to Brother Holland tonight, and I invite you into his virtual Q&A session, virtual workshop, virtual brothers conversation as we talk to him about the needs of Alpha and as he talks to you about the needs of Alpha. I know I'm standing with brothers in both areas 3 and area 5. Have familiarity with that area as I was once worked at Duke University and was a support mechanism on the campus for the mighty KO chapter, just visiting my fellow alums recently. And so shout out to all the brothers in that area. And I want to say all to you, thank you for your time, for coming tonight as we seek to endeavor to think about what it means to elect a district director and to support that district director and to hear their vision and clarity. So we just want to give you a minute to think about some of the questions that you might begin to ask. We're gonna ask a round of questions for the next hour. And then we're going to make sure that there is a copious amount of time for you to ask your own questions. Feel free to put them in the group chat if you'd like me to put the question up. We will try to keep it very conversational. But the goal is to get insight into what kind of leadership Brother Holland might bring to the table. You've probably seen some of his documents already circulating. And so we really want to spend time thinking about real-time concerns, issues, and evidentiary work that might lead us into the marvelous light. And so I want to start out just asking Brother Holland, talk to us a little bit about your journey in Alpha and why this position and why now?
My journey in Alpha, and brothers, good evening. I appreciate y'all for joining. A lot of familiar faces. To the brothers that I have not met, greetings. My journey started spring of 2008 in the AWE Lambda chapter. The year after I graduated from Winston-Salem State University with a Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science. I've probably held every office in the local chapter here except for chaplain. That is not my calling. So I stayed away from that one. But I was the chapter president from 2017 to 2020. During that time, we saw exponential growth. I say exponential because we went from 17 to 34 brothers in our chapter. So I understand the needs of the smaller chapter, and we put some really creative solutions in place to make sure that we could service our communities during that time, as well as pay our bills and our askings to the various levels of Alpha. When I came out of that role, I served as the area director for Area 5, which is everything from Salisbury to Cullowhee, where the brothers in Nu Zeta sit. So being able to work with Beta Nu Lambda chapter all the way down to the Tau Omicron chapter at the Davidson. We've been getting it done for the various levels of engagement across campuses, bringing the brothers together to do the work as well as fellowship. Why now? I want to continue to grow and develop as a leader. This opportunity presented itself. I feel like I have done my due diligence around preparing myself for the role. Most everybody who's worked with me understands that I'm cool under pressure, and you're always going to get a measured response when you're dealing with me. And I think those are two key things that you need to sit in this role. You have to be measured, and you got to be cool, and you got to understand varying thoughts, lines of thought. So that's why now. Brother Palmer, you asked me one more thing in that Trinity. What was the third one? It was just 2? Okay, I thought I heard 3. So that is it.
It was just 2 because that's the best number. It's just so you know. I want to say thank you, brothers, for joining us. I see former district director, Brother Carl Pickney, in the room. I see other brothers have joined us. Brother Eric Williams has his camera on. I appreciate that. Brother Gerard Tyson, I see you, good brother. We're grateful for all of your presence here tonight. So tell us about how you created the platform that you're operating under. And you might also, I'm going to ask Brother Norris, who's on your campaign team, to make sure that the platform is in, or the documentation is in our meeting chat, so that brothers have an opportunity to peruse it if they've not seen it. But talk to us a little bit about how your platform is informed by your service to the fraternity.
My platform is informed by my service to the fraternity, specifically as chapter president of the 80 Mu Lambda chapter. In order for me to grow our chapter in the time that I was the chapter president, I had to put supportive services in place to make sure that the brothers I was actively recruiting to get back in the fold, understood they had something to come back to. So being consistent and communicating with them around reactivation, and being a brother first, and then worrying about the business of Alpha thereafter, is one thing that informed my platform. I'm a technologist by trade. We do a lot around continuous improvement in my day job. So I like to make sure that we're operationally efficient at all levels, from the smallest chapter to the largest chapter. How do we make sure we have repeatable processes across varying sizes and scope of impact and brother in the district? And then finally, we got a lot of good work done down here in Gastonia when I was the chapter president, around advocacy and education and mentoring, the political spectrum. We did it all. So a lot of those things are very transferable up the chain, so to speak, and across the state. So I want to make sure that homelessness and affordable housing really is one of those items that we touch, as well as making sure we have a quality unified curriculum for our mentorship programs across the state as well. Coupling that life skills mentoring with homelessness and affordable housing, we have to make sure that the youth that we plan to serve have somewhere warm to eat a meal and warm to go to sleep at night. So that's what we want to attempt to do with that attack or that socialization around the plight of homelessness and affordable housing across the state. So that is how my platform was largely informed. I will go back to the continuum of support that you see in the Brotherhood Continuum. Shout out to the Beta Nu Lambda Brothers. They run the Alpha Fit Initiative, and that goes off without a hitch every month. They talk about it in their chapter meeting. And that is one of the affinity group offerings that we're going to have in that continuum of support, so that we can get brothers of like-minded skill level around exercise and engagement from a preventative health perspective up and moving. But I want to take that program and mobilize it across the state. So a lot of my collective experiences in Alpha, all the way up to the general org level, helping with conventions. The convention is the supreme governing body, right? So if you're in the mix on the conventions, you kind of know what's going on, or at least you should if you're there. So I absolutely enjoy doing that work at all levels, from conventions all the way down to conferences at the district level. So
I love that you have already started to pique our interest around kind of the diversity of work that is available for brothers at the national, regional, district, area, and chapter level. I know, just having known and read your history, you have actually held multiple positions at the same time. Talk to us a little bit about how you will juggle the work of being a district director and other duties that might align with all of those other roles that you play.
Yeah, so my goal up to this point in my development as an alpha man has been a test in capacity planning. So I wanted to take on varying roles across varying levels of the organization to really be able to provide value and meet a need. I like to lead by example, so that's primarily why I stepped up and offered myself for service. But for this role, I'm going to have to really provide some succession planning and some handoffs and really engage that next future technologist, be it a college brother or an alumni brother, that wants to serve as a regional director of technology, that wants to work on the convention team from a regional level, a district general level, because my goal, my desire is to make sure that I am solely focused on the role of district director. And there are a lot of moving parts with district director and the work that appertains thereunto. So with that, I have to make sure that I am putting the right people in the right places. So I wouldn't be a good leader if I wasn't working on active succession planning for the roles that I currently sit in, so that when it's time to assume this role, I am ready to rock and roll.
Love that. Love that. Would you care to talk to us a little bit about um let me argue two things. What are the
Yeah.
things that you see as most germane in attention for in that first kind of 30 to 90-day period as a district director from your vantage point? And what do you see as the easy wins? What would be your wins in those first 30 days? So talk to us a little bit about what you see as things that we should look forward to in the very near future.
Wins in the first 30 days, post-election or post swearing in?
Let's go post-election.
Okay, very good. Hey, I got to be optimistic, right? So post-election, I'll give you two answers because I want to make sure that brothers understand that it really is about the work. If it does not work out in my favor, I'm going to continue to do the work I've been doing. And I will congratulate Brother Reynolds if he is, in fact, the leader, and ask him where he needs my support. But on the flip side, if I'm afforded this opportunity to serve the brothers, getting the team together, putting out the call to service will be step one. Step two is sitting down with Brother Reynolds as the current executive director, as well as Brother Michael Pittman, and understand what is in flight. I have to understand and have situational awareness around what we're actually doing right now, so that it can further inform and impact the work that we want to do in the Holland administration. Around easy wins, I think it's our communication strategy. As we put out the call to service, we need to make sure that our communication strategy is top notch, and getting the director of communications in place as well as the director of technology in place is going to be important outside of the executive director, because those two roles are going to, one, redesign our website so that it has a familiar look and feel with our communication strategy. So to me, that is the top two things as far as easy wins go. We got to make sure that how we communicate at all levels and across all modalities looks the same, so it has our signature as the state of North Carolina, and providing a revamped and reimagined website that really purports who we are as Alpha Men, which is a very top-notch, well-functioning site. So,
Love that. I want to pivot a little bit since I'm sitting in my office at the university in North Carolina, Wilmington, and let's talk a little bit about what's in the proposal for college brothers and what informs your knowledge of what college brothers need. And so I want to think on behalf of brothers like the brothers at KO, the brothers here at OT, brothers I know at TALNU, and I want to ask a good question about what does Holland do specifically to empower undergraduate chapters?
perfect. So, I'll give you a quick PSA. For those that have not checked their email, the newsletter came out around 6 o'clock or so, and I really am categorizing this version of the advance notice, issue number 4, to our college brothers. If you look at Louis Cole's Corner, it clearly calls out how I plan to support the college brothers. If you go to page 2, there is a page 2, so make sure you click on the button at the bottom. We talk about the Standard of 7 Commission and how that commission really supports our college brothers in a holistic way, by making sure that we are engaging our university partners in the work that they can help us achieve around admissions, around campus engagement, and pouring into our alpha advisors, understanding what their needs are through having listening sessions on a quarterly basis, creating that feedback loop so that we can check and adjust and make the proper adjustments for our college brothers and advisors alike. But the things that immediately come to mind as I sit and I look at the budget as it exists today, we have a conference budget pot, and we have a budget pot for our district director. What I'm proposing is that we decouple the monies associated to awards for our college brothers and put them in a separate pot. And I want to then create a perpetual giving program funded by you, the brothers. I would rather brothers give freely than tax them because that always goes horribly wrong. Brothers don't like to be taxed. So I would like for you to freely give and understand the benefits of giving to support our college brothers post-COVID. Because this world post-COVID on the college campuses is very different. Currently serving as Area 5 director, working with the 7 college chapters in my area. They're all unique in their own different way. So you have to definitely meet them where they are, understand their needs, and then provide solutions to their needs. So really funding and putting our money where our mouth is as our budget being our moral compass has to be one of the first things that we do so that we, from a purely business perspective, can manage the ebbs and flows of that fund, understand when we're short, understand when we have quote unquote surplus so that we can continue to support our college brothers in a meaningful way as they need that support. Most of our PWI campuses have club accounts. You know, we talked about that on the forum. And this is a very, doable idea. It's at our discretion working with the financial team to really fund that line item and make sure that it's robust enough to support our college brothers. And then moreover, we talked about the College Brothers Summit. That's going to be a very exciting experience based on how we have it designed. But we want to make sure that it's right time, right size, right fit. So that will come through surveying and polling our college brothers on whether they would prefer the fall or the spring. And then we will let the College Brother Affairs Committee, our Alpha advisors, and our C2C chair and his committee get together and really flesh out what that experience is going to look like. So that is what I see for our college brothers in the Holland administration. And I also see engagement. I had a chance to talk with the Zeta brothers yesterday and the Sigma Delta brothers as well. And those intimate, smaller chapters matter. They have, again, unique challenges, just like a Tau Omicron. So they need to see their leader. They need to understand that their leader is listening. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time. We were on maybe 30 minutes, but it was probably the most impactful 30 minutes of the day because I got a really firsthand account as to what they were after in their next leader. So
I love that. I love that you talk. Two things that I'm interested in is your intimacy and understanding the nature of the small undergraduate chapter. And I'm wondering if you could provide what kind of speculatively what you see given the world of affirmative action and how it might shift. Do you think there will be a lot of shifting and changing with college chapters, or do you foresee having to close college chapters in the next year or two because of the shifts in affirmative action, or do you think we'll be able to sustain and grow and maybe even advance to some colleges that we have not been at before?
So, Brother Palmer, that is a very good question, and that is the beauty of the Standard of 7 Commission. It is my job to go sit in front of those university officials where we do have college college chapters, and make sure they understand our position on their campuses. But we are going to look at the university trending. I'm not going to say that we're going to wholesale have to close college chapters, but we're going to do the investigative work before we make that type of decision. I do see affirmative action somewhat changing how we administer and support our college chapters, but I think it is our job as the men of Alpha Phi Alpha on those campuses to further advocate for the chapters that we have on those campuses to make sure that they can thrive and grow. And that goes back to looking at that university trending. We have to make sure that when we go have that conversation with the leadership, we understand what the demographics look like coming in their door. their demographics are changing, and we have a college chapter on that campus, we ask them why. There's nothing wrong with asking why. They need to tell us why they're changing. And if they're changing because of university policy, then it may be an ideal opportunity for us to take a stance and say, well, this isn't right. And maybe our chapter doesn't need to be here because you don't represent the ideals and aims of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Yeah.
So that's how, I mean, that's really how I see us as doing this. Like, I don't want to, read them the riot act and stand on the table. I want to make it a really collaborative experience where we can give and take in that engagement so that they understand that we are trying to partner with them. But if their policies are changing that are divergent to what Alpha is about, then we definitely have to see something and say something.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And it may mean that our HBCU chapters have or grow in size, number, and ilk. And there may be, and I imagine on campuses, there could be a renaissance in places like Livingstone and smaller schools, smaller HBCUs that might benefit from the growth or the decision to be at a
Definitely.
historically Black college in the coming years.
Definitely.
Want to shift a little bit, if you don't mind.
Let me say
To
one
say?
more thing before you
Yeah.
shift on that, because I want to really hit on the flexibility of the Standard of Seven Commission. So let's say we have that renaissance. Then that means that we get to go on those HBCU campuses and say, hey, this has been a best practice at your PWI counterparts institution for as long as we've been there. Put the club account in place. Make sure that you are supporting the chapters that are on your campus. So that further helps us support those chapters as they continue to grow on those campuses. So really fortifying and solidifying those relationships, be it PWI or HBCU, they both have things that we could potentially call them the carpet on, based on trying to develop what that best standard looks like of support for our college chapters.
No, I think you're raising some really good questions about infrastructure, about support and accountability, even on an HBCU campus and a PW and our small PWIs. And we know that size variation, you can have intimate chapters on HBCU campuses as well.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about what small chapters, what do you see as the unique challenges for small alumni chapters, given that you've grown an alumni chapter, that you want to kind of pierce into or wade into that might have been overlooked in previous iterations of ANCA?
I mean, it really boils down to the bottom line, which is the dollar. Assessments are assessments, and I get it. But we have to be creative in how we provide best practice to our small alumni chapter around being able to pay your assessments as well as impact your community through community programming and giving. So that would be one thing I would immediately want to focus on is how do we put those best practices in place so that it's scalable, whether you're big or small, but definitely supporting a small chapter around what the askings are at every level versus what your community budget will look like for impacting your communities. And if they aren't in alignment, let's get them in alignment so that we can really take the burden off of those chapters. Because some of those small alumni chapters are advisors to those smaller undergrad chapters. So what does that look like when they're short on their assessments and askings? How do we put the infrastructure in place to support the small alumni chapter and the small college chapter when they're coupled together through advisory? So, making sure that the Alpha advisor is at the table for that conversation. Our chapter presidents, they have a role to play in solutioning what this looks like. And our finance team. Our finance team will have a role to play in building out what that holistic perspective looks like to provide best practice on going to get community funding, on potentially setting up a foundation and what the foundation looks like to offset your costs. Most have foundations, but getting them off the ground can somewhat be a challenge. So how do we provide that foundation toolkit for those small chapters so that they can function, but not have all the overhead associated with trying to manage two boards? How do we really, hone in and make sure that we have brothers and we have the bare minimum of brothers serving both causes because it serves the main cause, which is servicing our communities. So
Sure. I can imagine that when we think about small or large chapters, crisis management, crisis development is something that we know is a need for a leader of your of in the district director's shoes.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm interested a little bit in your in. I know that you were working knee deep in the water during COVID. I'd love to hear a little bit about what your experiences look like in COVID and how they are now informing what you see as the way forward in Alpha.
So the biggest thing that COVID taught us, I feel like, is the ability to pivot. The world stopped one day, and Alpha really had to adjust how they done their business from a technology perspective. Being able to have our virtual conferences, being able to have our hybrid conferences, making sure that the business of Alpha still moved forward, was work that I was on the front end of. Everybody loves 42 chats. 42 chats was a brainchild and the best practice of the general organization that we brought down and implemented at every level. Having hybrid conventions was, something that had been done and something that I developed and worked on under the Russian administration to make sure that we could have quality experiences and still be connected as brothers of Alpha. So that work was very instrumental in informing my ability to be able to pivot, one, and two, understand how overall community trending and potential community impact presents a need for technology and leveraging that technology. I'm a tech guy, but it's bigger than technology. Technology really provides ease of use and allows us to make really savvy business decisions when you have some level of depth of understanding around what the technologies look like. To that end, that is primarily how that was formed. We saw a need, we went, we shopped, we test drove, and we made sure that the platforms and solutions that we put in place were going to be commensurate to the Alpha standard. Were there hiccups? Oh yeah, definitely. But that just gave us the opportunity to continue to develop and grow, which is something that you also come to understand in a Holland administration. It's not about presenting the best face. It's about presenting reality. And if we miss the mark, I want to be transparent and contrite enough with the brothers to make sure they understand that we're going to correct it. And this is the action plan and how we correct it going forward. So COVID definitely taught us a lot. And then moreover, my role as the Area 5 director during that time, over and above the technology perspective, was to support my alumni chapter presidents as they dealt with, what the college brother experience looked like, being at home, still having to maintain and run a chapter, having virtual programs, advising chapters on the best method and use of technology in Area 5 during that time. So, wearing those hats gave me the business process and business aspect of what Alpha needed, but as well as how we leverage technology and making sure we can continue to get the work done. So
Good. And I appreciate your answers around how engaged in technology. And before I know I want to give about 30 minutes to brothers to really ask some questions. And I'm just gonna do a bit of a lightning round with you. So like doesn't need a whole lot of exclamation, but
okay,
just follow me, will you?
I
Uh,
got you. Here we go. Here
so
we go.
question number one, what are you reading?
What am I reading? I am reading what is it called? The Art of Communication. This process has really helped me continue to grow. And so it's the Art of Communication.
Okay. What are you listening to?
I am listening to Killer Mike. Yes. My my barber put me on Killer Mike. I like it. So I think it's called Michael, the new album. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
All right. And then lastly, favorite moment in Alpha around brotherhood.
favorite moment in Alpha around brotherhood is always our ability to have brotherhood smokes. I will not lie to you. The first cigar I ever had an opportunity to have was at the jailhouse in Belmont, North Carolina. and I got a chance to share it with Brother Turner, Brother Mahoney may or may not have been there, Brother Martin, and our now current sitting general president, Brother Willis Lonson, was in town. So from that night on, I was like, this isn't bad. So I really do enjoy that.
When you spent time with Brother Lonzer, General President Lonzer, did he introduce you to his signature cocktail, the Lonzer? Did you get to have that?
Yeah, he introduced me to the cocktail, his favorite cigar, and the large animals that he walks around the block at his house. So, yeah, he's got some big old dogs, man. So it was a good
big
time.
dog, big personality, big brother.
Absolutely,
and will be big shoes to fill when his time and tenure is up in Alpha. We appreciate his tenacity and work in the house. I'm now going to open the floor up to brothers. If brothers have specific questions, I know as they say in the country, pacific. If you got pacific questions, but if you have specific questions at this time, we'd love to hear from you. And if you want me to continue asking questions, I got time to do that as well. But I would love for you to pose your own individual questions. And if they are written questions, then I'm going to, if you put them in the chat box, then I'll read them out loud, of course. But if you have questions at this time that are germane to Area 3 or Area 5, or whatever you want to hear from my dear brother, let's go on and offer some thoughts and have him answer some questions for you.
Uh-oh. It always takes that one brave soul, brothers. Who's it going to be?
Usually you can't tell alphas to be quiet.
Hey, Brother Holland, this is Brother Hall. How you doing?
Hey, Brother Hall.
Quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Over the past district direction that you served under, have you had a chance to review some of their platforms prior to yours? And if you have or you haven't, what have you gleaned from those experiences working under different district directors?
So I was actually afforded the opportunity as the chapter president to interact with Brother past district director Manners. His leadership style is very divergent from Brother Pittman. But the biggest thing that I got from Brother Manners' administration was just empowerment. He trusted us to do our jobs. He trusted the area directors to do their jobs. He asked the area directors to make sure that everybody that was serving from a leadership perspective had an opportunity to really do their job. So that is something that I actually took out of that administration. And, T1, I don't know if you remember this, but in the hallway in Concord, you said, the House of Alpha is bigger than the room that you were made in, or the room that you sit in. So getting outside of your comfort zone really was one of the biggest learnings that I was able to take from the Manners administration. So then I got a chance to start bugging Eric Heath and Rodney Shepard around conventions and conferences. I affectionately called them Crockett and Tubbs. So we had a good time. I was a underling and a grunt guy, but I got the work done and I got a chance to really experience what quality conferences look like. Not that Brother Manners was not spiritual, but Brother Pittman is very spiritual, in nature. And the Tuesday morning prayer call has merit. So my goal is to expand that merit, make it multi-faith and multi modalities. I want to make sure you can pick up your phone, or you can look at a video, or you can join the Tuesday morning prayer call. Those are the things that I've been able to glean from the two administrations I've worked in.
So love that. Any other questions, brothers?
Don't be shy, brothers. This is your time. I've talked enough.
What questions have been asked already? We don't want to be redundant. I had to step away. It was painful at first, so I had to step away and pour a drink.
Brother Pickney, you have redundant questions. All questions that you would ask are germane to the conversation, Brother Pickney.
Drink the drink, and then the questions will come. How about that?
We
I
asked
was hearing all them softball questions, Brother Palmer. I said, where did he get that script from? That sounds like that script Kevin McCarthy had the day before he resigned.
Brother
Mahoney,
Picker, are you picking on me?
I'm picking on Palmer. I say all this stuff going on in the country, and we talking about hypotheticals. We need a new Speaker of the House in Washington, D.C. I want to know if Brother Holland ready for that job. Shit, Alpha is bigger than
Listen,
just being a district director.
you're right, but I tell you, being a district director will get me ready to be the Speaker of the House. How about that?
Yeah, because Alpha is difficult.
Well, Brother Holland, it leads
Yes,
me
sir.
though into a question.
Yes, sir.
I was on the phone with my Omega friends and my Kappa friends earlier this evening. We do collaborate across the D9 fraternities.
Yeah.
What do you see as the role of the district director at a larger setting, like sitting at the regional board table and being the voice of North Carolina, which North Carolina is not just any district. It is by far one of the premier districts, not just in the southern region, but being in the proximity of Washington, D.C., 2 districts over, and being at this part of the region, you do have the closest proximity to the base of our political system at the federal level, which is Washington, D.C. How do you see yourself sitting in that role and representing Anchor? And what do you think should be the posture for the district director of North Carolina at the regional board table?
So the posture for the district director at the regional board table is a posture of collaboration, a posture of advocacy. My job is to make sure that I represent the interests of the district, but I have to be collaborative and walk the line, so to speak, in that advocacy, but definitely collaborative in nature. I'll be coming in with Mississippi and Alabama's newly minted district directors, so understanding their mission from their district and their vision, and how we can collaborate together in the context of working up and through the mean strategy, or the Alpha Best platform, and all the other things that Brother Regional Vice President Howard has in flight. Like I said when I answered one of the previous questions, making sure that I have situational awareness of where Brother Howard is in his journey through his roadmap and platform, and supporting that, and making sure that I can find the ability to merge the two together, so to speak, because our platform, I feel like, is very transcendent, is very relevant, and dovetails a lot into what Brother Regional Vice President is already trying to get done. And so from a political perspective, again, advocacy, working with my political action chair and political action committee, they will advise me on what our posture needs to be, and that is what our posture will be, because they would have done the legwork to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward from a position of advocacy and support for the state of North Carolina. But then I do see us potentially ruffling feathers a little bit, because we are going to have to advocate for those that are being marginalized, and sometimes advocacy for those that are marginalized is uncomfortable. But we have to make sure that we're doing it from a position of strength, by putting our best foot forward and having the strategies that we need to work through what that looks like.
And Brother Howland, if I can follow up there.
Yeah, yes, sir.
From a delegate strength perspective, those 2 districts are smaller than North Carolina.
Yeah.
So from a delegate strength perspective, you will be coming into office with 2 districts that really aren't at the same level of a North Carolina. So that leadership and that voice at the table can clearly resonate. That's 2 districts right there you could collaborate with. Just give you the inside strategy, and number 23 knows this because we played it every time.
Right.
if you come in and you got 3 votes at the board table, you instantly have power in the room.
Yeah.
So collaboration with Alabama and Mississippi coming in is the key.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the North Carolina DD leads that threesome. Don't ever concede what we have been able to do historically. We passed the torch up.
Very good.
So having number 22 and number 23 sitting in the room, we can tell you things that you may not hear otherwise.
Very good.
And those other 2 may very well be trying to posture, but every now and then you just got to show them the delicate numbers. And if it get really tight, just show them the bank account. Say, look, we fly first class. Y'all back there and coach. We go into the same meeting, but our budget often is a little bit larger than theirs too.
Right.
So you have a position of strength and substance going into the role. That's one of the advantages. I hate to say advantages in this kind of setting, but that is one of the advantages that North Carolina has at the regional board table. I kind of loaded that question with a whole lot of information on the front side, but I wanted to make certain I get the point across to those in the room that, are witnessing what we're doing here with electing the next leader. That next leader got to know the posture that he already has and the substance and the strength that you have at the regional board table.
Thank you for that, Brother Pinkney. I appreciate it.
And then we're gonna go take the hill at UNC Wilmington. We're gonna take the hill down there. So Brother Palmer is getting things ready. We're gonna get the hill at UNC Wilmington.
You keep praying, brother. I'm around here fighting on ice.
But that exchange right there with Brother Pinkney really speaks to like the ability to be coachable. Everybody that's ever worked with me understands that deference is key in this type of engagement. You can't out-talk anybody that's sat in the room and been there in places you've never been. So that was absolutely great information, Brother Lassiter. But moreover, Brother Pinkney, I think when we come back down to the state level, those D9 relationships that you mentioned when you queued up your question is going to be important. And the D9 legislative day, taking a look at what it looks like now, but understanding how to develop its impact. Is there something else that we could add to that experience that will continue to solidify our collective relationship with all of the D9 organizations and begin to gather that information so we can storytell. Storytelling is powerful when you do it the right way, but you got to have something to talk about when you start talking. So working with those leaders from the office of the district director, understanding what our strategy is going to be holistically across the state will also be something else that we'll need to keep at the forefront of our minds. So.
Your brothers, are there other questions?
Yeah, I'll just add a comment, not necessarily a question. Brother Holland, good to see you.
Likewise.
It's just twofold, 2 comments. One on the district level. When I think back to the 23rd administration, you're going to have, especially if you're mission focused and you put the office before self and the brothers before self, you're going to get in a situation where you're going to be in some pretty contentious conversations, heated debate, right? And as I look at this group of brothers on the phone, I got 4 rows. There's at least one brother on each row where I've had a contentious conversation or heated debate about the fraternity, but it's all out of love. So I want to know how you've dealt with that in the past and how you intend to deal with that in the office of DD, because look, I've been cussed out on Sunday morning on speakerphone in front of my wife by my brothers, right? That's one. And
it
then
wasn't
2,
Sean. It wasn't Sean, was it?
No, it wasn't Sean. It wasn't Sean. It wasn't it wasn't nobody on this phone. But
I reserved my cussing for GKL.
but 2, Brother Holland, I want to expound on number 22's point that not only does the district director of INCA have influence in the southern region, but you will be seen as a leader amongst district directors across all of Alpha. I was able to influence policy in the Western region with the district director of Southern California, establish a close relationship with the district director of Texas, the district director of Pennsylvania. You'll also, Brother Holland, be able to influence the national office, right? And that's very, very important given that ANCA typically has one of the largest numbers going through IMDP. And so I know you've got a head start because you've already got relationships and you know the people and players, but that's
Yeah.
something you also want to be mindful of. So I just wanted to make those 2 points. You don't have to respond, but I just want to make those 2 points, Brother Holland.
Okay, so in those points, you did ask one question, and Palmer, I want to refer back to a book that I actually finished reading, or a manual. We talk about the 7 habits. Seek first to understand, brother. Like, there's no reason, to get in a contentious conversation. Everybody says their piece, and we say it in a brotherly manner, and we, agree to disagree. Or we come to some type of alignment on whatever the topic is. But seeking first to understand is how I've always approached leadership in Alpha to this point, and I don't plan on changing that. Because at the end of the day, the 7 jewels were brothers before this became a business. And while they did have their debates that we may or may not know about, at the end of the day, it was about uplift and support. And that's what it'll be about in my administration.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Brother Holland, I'm going to do something that I hadn't done before, but number 23 reminded me of something, and I'm gonna be fully transparent. I'm going to share it with both candidates, but I'm gonna share it with you this evening.
Copy.
The district director of North Carolina will have access to the national headquarter team. And there is a decorum that is needed every time we call the national headquarter office. It is one of sincere cordiality. If you get an opportunity to work with Mr. Lurs Diggs, there have been countless days where I could not get anything done without Ms. Diggs's help.
Right, absolutely.
And others that work at our national headquarters. Now it's public knowledge. We have some brothers that call national headquarters and they are nasty.
Right.
They're disrespectful because they want something and they're not patient. And they tend to show what we don't necessarily admire in a man, that he gets mad with somebody on the other end of the phone at the national headquarter office.
Right.
Our district director will be given every ounce of cooperation from that national headquarter team, because as Brother Manna stated, and he's absolutely right, when those IMDP numbers go in, brother, North Carolina is almost at the top of the list in the country.
Okay.
So they give us a lot of due respect when the district director of North Carolina calls. Make certain you give that back. And as I'm saying this to you, I will say it to the other candidate too. That's our reputation. And they have a lot of respect for us here in North Carolina. And we certainly don't want to lose that.
Very good. No, I wholeheartedly agree with that. As chapter president, calling on behalf of my senior brothers, I've had the fortunate opportunity to interact with Ms. Diggs and the brothers in the office. So I get it, and sometimes as a leader, you got to somewhat fall on that sword when those poor interactions do happen, because we don't want to damage the goodwill that we have amassed to this point with them. So just keeping that at the forefront of our minds. And, a lot of that goes with our communication strategy, how we want to share information, how we want to lead by example in dealing with everybody, internal and external to the organization. is qualities and behaviors that I have to emote as the leader. So I go, so I want the district to go. And that'll be something that I'll stress as I have conversations with every chapter in the district. So.
Hey, Brother Holland. Hey,
Hey, Jones.
hey, what's going on, man? Hey, so I got a quick question right quick. The question is, do you foresee bringing back the leadership retreat during the summers? I know Brother Manner started that back when he was in office. That actually helped because when he had that program at the time, I was serving as the vice president or so. Um, and then, as he left office, we never got a chance to kind of continue that program. So I know we've had discussions about rebuilding the pipeline within the district and within Alpha. So do you foresee kind of bringing that program back or kind of revamping something similar to that?
Yeah, I mean, so again, our chapter vice presidents and presidents will have a seat at the table at the board meeting. That was a very forward-thinking idea to make sure we could level the playing field and get our leaders in the room with our executive leadership team. So yeah, the summer retreat or summer experience, I think does come back, but I think it comes back to tee up what we want the Emerging Leaders Initiative to look like, which will be our cohort program that we're proposing under operational refinement, because we really got to make sure that we develop the next generation of alpha leaders. So we'll have that conversation with the current sitting presidents and vice presidents to ensure that they understand the Emerging Leaders Initiative is coming, that they want to recommend somebody to the program. We'll make sure that we are resetting our focus around leadership and leading at all levels and giving exposure to leadership at all levels in that program.
Brothers, we have just about 2 minutes left, and we want to thank you for your questions. And so, Brother Holland, if there are not any other questions, do you want to close us out with just some thoughts and final thoughts as we consider what it will mean to have you as our district director?
Final thoughts, brothers. I appreciate your time. We've had a really good hour of engagement. I think that's what you should come to expect on some level, hearing from your leader, engaging with your leader, in these intimate, opportunities to connect. I'm not going to say they're going to be frequent, but they will happen because how we run the campaign is how we need to run our administration, as I was told. So expect this to be a part of the standard. I am pleased and I'm appreciative of all the feedback I've received to this point around engaging in my leadership qualification and the work that I've done to this point to prepare me for this role. So again, I appreciate you. I want your continued evaluation of the strategies that we're putting in place because as I told the brothers of Zeta at Sigma Delta yesterday, this is our plan. This is our strategy. And I want all the input that you may have based on what we put together to this point so that we can really exercise that continuous improvement muscle, even in the context of this engagement. So, brothers, thank you for your time tonight. And go tell a brother that may not be aware of what's going on from an electing perspective, that this is important. What we get done in the next 4 years is going to set us up for the next 40. I feel like that's how transcendent and impactful I want the next 4 years to be. But I can only do that with your support and your help. So with that, brothers, I am right on 10 o'clock. And I so much appreciate you for joining tonight. If you can join next week, it will be a alumni brother focus. We're going to call it the Alumni Brother Caucus. We're getting ready to get into our caucus series of the open house. So we have our alumni brothers first, then our senior brothers, and then our college brothers will be last. Everybody will get to bring their concerns to this forum. So tell a brother, tell an alumni brother that may not be engaged in the process to come check it out, see what it's all about. They're more than welcome to register through all of the social capital we're putting out to make sure that they're engaged and informed in this process. So thank you again, brothers, for your time tonight.